Chapter 91 The Ancestor is leaving Cangnan Continent. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What? The Ancestor is leaving Cangnan Continent. Upon hearing the news, Luo Li and Jun Mo Xiao turned pale with fright. At this moment, they felt like they had become orphans. It seems that the ancestors are leaving them far away, no longer want them, and don't care about them. Luo Li cried at that time, and said with tears in her eyes, "Ancestor, do you really don't want us anymore?" Lord Grimm, who has always been sentimental, wiped away his tears and said in a tearful tone, "Ancestor, am I too useless?" Seeing the two children crying so miserably, Yi Yun couldn't help but smile. He just wanted to leave Cangnan Continent and find a suitable place to break through to the Divine Lord Realm. How could he not want these three little guys? In any case, he has to train the remaining three little guys of the Shenlong Sect to become eternal-level strong men before he can leave with peace of mind. "Master, you must not leave, we can't live without you." The big black cat also lay down and cried bitterly. If the master leaves, its future cultivation resources will be cut off. The dark horse, who had always been relatively calm, was also nervous. There was a hazy mist in its eyes, and it turned to look at Yi Yun, and asked softly, "Master, can you take me with you?" Seeing that these people were thinking wrongly, Yi Yun suddenly felt funny, and he shook his head gently. "I'm about to break through to the next level. I'm afraid it will cause terrifying phenomena in the world, so I need to find a place." Yi Yun smiled and expressed his thoughts. "Congratulations, sir. After all, the big dark horse is a big demon in the eternal realm. He knows better," and immediately started laughing. The big black cat blinked. "The master is already a god, could it be that? Can we continue to make breakthroughs?" It suddenly realized that it was ridiculously shallow and didn't even know the next level of the true god realm. Lord Grimm and Luo Li looked at each other and quickly wiped the tears from their eyes. The ancestor is so strong that he is about to break through from the true god realm to the next realm again. Although they didn't know what the next realm would be, they were all happy for their ancestor's breakthrough. Yi Yun looked calm and didn't say anything more. His body suddenly disappeared from the spot. No one knows where he went. This is also true for the dark horse with the highest level of cultivation. Even though I know my ancestors will come back, but their ancestor was suddenly no longer around. Jun Ma Xiao and Luo Li still couldn't accept it for a while, and they were a little depressed. Senior sister is still in seclusion. She probably doesn't know the news yet, right? Lord Grimm said in a low voice. Luo Li nodded, and then laughed again. Maybe the ancestor will come back soon. At that time, the senior sister has not left seclusion yet? Yeah. Lord Grimm nodded. Oops, I forgot to ask my ancestor, what kind of monster is Lei Ze? I've never heard of it. A look of annoyance suddenly appeared on Luo Li's beautiful little face. She had never heard of Lei Ze at all. The ancestors asked them to go to the Lei Mountains to gain experience. In addition to competing with the talented disciples of various sects, they might also want them to capture Lei Ze. This is Lei Ze. The big black horse let out a breath and condensed into the appearance of Lei Ze in mid-air. It was a big blue bird, somewhat similar to Qinghuan, but its whole body shone with amazing lightning, giving people an explosive feeling. Especially those eyes full of murderous intent are impressive. So this is Lei Ze. Lord Grimm nodded, and then he and his senior sister Luo Li took off into the air, flying towards the cumulative mountains. The big black cat raised its paws, looked in the direction of Lei Mountain, and volunteered, "Uncle Ma, how about I protect the two little masters? Just watch the carriage honestly. The master is not here this time, so he asked me to go out and stretch my muscles." The big black horse grinned, and the reins suddenly dropped. Then it took 2 steps forward and transformed into a middle-aged man wearing a black robe. Hey, how does Uncle Ma look like? Is he charming? The big black horse grinned, showing his white teeth, and laughed. "Uncle Ma, you are truly the best among men. Your temperament is unparalleled in the world. No one can surpass you except me." Seeing that Uncle Ma had turned into a human form, the big black cat's brain got excited and he transformed into a young man in black. He sat on the carriage and gave a thumbs up to the big black horse. "Huh, what you little kitten said, Uncle Ma likes to hear." that the big dark horse laughed. Ever since he came out of the master's warehouse, he had been working hard pulling the carriage. Although he had no complaints, he always felt a little bored. This time, the master is gone, and it wants to go out and do some activities no matter what. The first is to protect the two little masters, the second is to look for some natural and earthly treasures everywhere to fill their stomachs. Third, if there is a mare who is in love with her, it doesn't mind leaving a little blood in this world, so as not to be laughed at by Sister Fong every time it goes back. Kitty Cat, take a good look at the car. Uncle Ma is here. That the big black horse laughed loudly and walked away. The young man in black robe transformed into a big black cat sat on the carriage boredly, staring blankly at the sky. I am already a true god, and yet I am able to break through again. What is the next level? That the big black cat murmured to himself. Think about it for a while. He suddenly felt a little bored, so he jumped off the carriage and wanted to drag the carriage away, but he couldn't drag the carriage with all his strength. Hey, be good, this carriage is extraordinary, I can't even drag Uncle Cat. That the big black cat looked frustrated. When it thought of Uncle Ma dragging this carriage through the void at lightning speed, it realized how terrifying Uncle Ma was. I have no choice but to wait here. In the end, the big black cat had no choice but to jump on the carriage again, sit cross-legged, close his eyes and start practicing. Several figures came through the sky. Is that the black carriage you're talking about? Yes, Senior, there is a big demon here. It can talk. It seems to be of high moral character. If you kill it, its demon elixir will definitely be valuable. Several young monks from Yuanhai realm, leading an old man from the 10th level of Xinxiao realm, flew from a distance and came to the side of the carriage. Where is the demon cat you are talking about? There is clearly only a young man in black. That the old man on the 10th level of the Divine Bridge realm looked at the monks next to him and said angrily, these guys insisted on saying that there was an unmanned carriage with a demon cat lying on it, and its cultivation level was not low. As a result, when he arrived at this place, he saw the carriage, which was ordinary and nothing outstanding, but the demon cat disappeared. I remember there was a big black horse in front of this carriage. Why are the horses missing now? Could it be stolen? One of the monks said in shock. Senior, maybe we arrived too late and were caught first. That another young man from the Yuanhai realm said with a sad face. Before the old man in the Xinxiao realm could get angry, at this time, the young man in black robe sitting on the black carriage suddenly opened his eyes and looked towards the crowd. The young man in black robe originally looked like an ordinary person. At this moment, he suddenly transformed into a big black cat like a hill. Your grandpa cat is here. Chapter 92 Tearing the Void Across Hundreds of Millions of Miles. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Nirvana Realm Great Demon, looking at the big black cat that looked like a hill, the old man in the Xinxiao realm had his eyesight blurred, and he fainted from fright. The other young monks in the Yuanhai realm were already so frightened that they fell to the ground as soft as mud. No one ever dreamed that the inconspicuous black cat on the carriage turned out to be a great demon in the Nirvana realm. You greedy humans should pay a price for your greed. Today, your grandpa cat represents the reincarnation of heaven and gives you the ultimate judgment. That the big black cat deliberately kept a serious face. It blew out a breath and landed on the Yuanhai realm monks who were lying limply on the ground, instantly making them unconscious. I want to imitate the master and take a breath, but I still can't. The big black cat smiled helplessly, grabbed those people who fell on the ground, stuffed them into its mouth and ate them indiscriminately. After eating these people, the big black cat returned to his human form again and sat on the carriage with his eyes closed to relax. He didn't mind if people continued to bother him. The big black cat made up his mind that if anyone dared to touch the master's carriage, he would show no mercy and eat them all. Over the Lei Mountains, a middle-aged man in a black robe suddenly looked somewhere and cursed angrily, "You little brat, you don't have much ability, but you always like to stick a green onion in your nose and pretend to be an elephant. You can learn the master's ability in one breath. Can you do it? Even you, Uncle Ma, and I can't do it." His voice seemed to have a strange power, penetrating the distant space and landing on the big black cat's ear thousands of miles away. "Uncle Ma, I will never dare to be like you again." The big black cat quickly begged for mercy. "Kitty cat, take care of the carriage. This is your biggest task. The middle-aged man in black robes smiled and swaggered towards the Lei Mountains. On the blue sea, the space fluctuated, and a figure in white suddenly appeared. Well, I have already left the island in Cangnan Continent. Yi Yun looked around and smiled softly. Just now, he tore apart the void continuously, spanning hundreds of millions of miles, and directly crossed the Cangnan Continent from the Kamikaze dynasty, arriving at the sea area outside Cangnan Continent. This sea area is probably tens of millions of miles away from Cangnan Continent, but it can be considered a place where few people visit. From Cangnan Continent, you can fly thousands of miles in any direction to reach the forbidden place of death. In the hearts of ordinary monks, the ocean outside Cangnan Continent is boundless, and ordinary monks can rarely fly thousands of miles away. It's not just distance, the main reason is that the depths of this sea area are filled with all kinds of terrifying beasts. If you fly directly from above, you will easily be attacked by ferocious beasts, but tens of millions of miles away, that place is where the real nightmare begins. Without the cultivation of the eternal realm, once you reach the place of death, you can't even think about stepping another foot away. The strong wind was raging in that place, and the thunder and fire were rolling incessantly. Even the monks in the eternal realm could not last for 7 days. Yi Yun, who was the #1 master in Cangnan Continent back then, also relied on the body of a divine dragon to fly for 3 months without finding the end. However, he used his great supernatural powers to vaguely see a continent on the opposite side. Wow! There was a loud noise in the blue sea water, and the waves splashed. A huge figure leapt out of the sea, opened its bloody mouth, and bit Yi Yun. Yi Yun smiled indifferently, and with a flick of his finger, the huge sea monster turned into a line of blue smoke and disappeared. This is a great sea monster at the 10th level of Destiny Realm, but for Yi Yun, it was just a snap of a finger. He strolled leisurely and flew slowly in mid-air. The continuous tearing of the void across hundreds of millions of miles just now was extremely draining for Yi Yun, therefore, he has to recover his mana now. Yi Yun took out a few pills, threw them into his mouth, and walked against the wind. He is now at the peak of the 10th level of the true God realm, although he has already stood at the pinnacle of the highest combat power in Cangnan Continent, but in fact, this continuous tearing of the void spans hundreds of millions of miles, and for Yi Yun, the physical load is extremely heavy. Fortunately, he is the body of an ancestral dragon, so he can withstand the pressure caused by the continuous tearing of space. The true God is still a little weak. If one day, he can advance to the realm of God King, tearing the void across hundreds of millions of miles continuously will be as easy as drinking water and eating. Yi Yun smiled calmly. Above the true God is the divine king realm, then the divine sovereign realm, and then the divine king realm. There is still a long way to go for Yi Yun to reach the realm of God King. However, Yi Yun was not worried. Signing in for 100,000 years has given him an unimaginable amount of resources, which will make everything in his practice come to fruition without any delay. After taking a few pills, Yi Yun quickly recovered his magic power. He tore through the void again and appeared thousands of miles away several times in a row. Here we are again. Looking at the familiar scene ahead, Yi Yun felt quite emotional. This separation lasted 100,000 years. In the past 100,000 years, things in Cangnan Continent have changed, and the sea has turned into mulberry fields. However, the sky-high barrier on this sea area has still not changed at all. Now in front of Yi Yun, there is a yellow barrier connecting the sea water and the dome. In the yellow barrier, the roar of the wind kept coming, and various lightning flashed from time to time inside, but the strange thing is, outside this barrier, the wind was calm and the sun was shining, without any change, but within the barrier, it seemed like it was the end of the world. Yi Yun was about to leave for this strong wind area when he suddenly saw 2 figures flying out of the barrier in a panic. Yi Yun's pupils condensed slightly. He couldn't help but smile lightly when he discovered that they were 2 monks from the Eternal Realm. I haven't seen the monks in the Eternal Realm for a long time, but I feel a bit friendly. The 2 monks flew out of the Gangfeng area with disgraced faces, with lingering fears on their faces. This road to heaven is not that easy. Our cultivation is still too poor. An old man wearing a blue robe shook his head sadly and said, "Yes, from ancient times to the present, there are not many monks in the Eternal Realm who can successfully pass." Another old man in red robe said with emotion, "Someone actually passed the barrier." Yi Yun suddenly felt a little incredible. He took one step and was in front of the two of them in an instant. "You two fellow Taoists, you are polite." Yi Yun clasped his hands into fists and smiled calmly. "Who are you?" The two old men in the eternal realm were frightened when they saw a young man in white suddenly appearing. The young man in white suddenly appeared next to them like a ghost. "If this person has malicious intentions and secretly murders them, I'm afraid they will not escape death." After all, both of them were monks in the eternal realm, but neither of them found any trace of the young man in white, which showed how high the other's cultivation was. "I am an overseas casual cultivator," Yi Yun said with a smile. He stared at the two old men with sharp eyes and asked, "What about the road to heaven that you two just mentioned?" Chapter 93 Road to Heaven. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Your Excellency, you don't know about Tongtian Road. The two old men looked shocked and looked at the young man in white in disbelief. This young man in white had profound features and an extraordinary temperament. He was like a banished immortal. He exuded an indescribable aura that made it impossible for them to tell his cultivation level. In the minds of the two powerful men in the eternal realm, perhaps this young man has some kind of secret method that blocks his aura, so they cannot see his cultivation. The two of them did not regard Yi Yun as an ordinary monk, but as an eternal realm monk of the same level. Therefore, the two of them did not dare to show any slight attitude. "Excuse me, Your Excellency, have you been practicing in seclusion all this time?" The old man in blue robe asked with a smile. "So be it." Yi Yun smiled softly. "Lying in a coffin for 100,000 years, is this considered seclusion?" After 100,000 years of vicissitudes of life, things outside have changed. Even Yi Yun did not expect that there would be new changes in Cangnan Continent. Within this barrier that has remained unchanged for thousands of years, there is actually a so-called ancient road to the sky. What surprised him most was that there were actually people who actually walked out of this barrier from this road to heaven and entered the new continent. That's no wonder. The two old men in the eternal realm showed a look of sudden realization on their faces at the same time. About 90,000 years ago, the master of the Ice Phoenix Sect reached the 10th level of the eternal realm. He entered this Gangfeng area and found an extremely ancient road. Following this road, he could actually leave the Cangnan Continent. The old man in blue robe explained. This road was named the Tongtian Ancient Road by future generations. The dangers on this road are much less dangerous. If one has a high enough cultivation level, like the leader of the Ice Phoenix Sect, one can walk out of this Tongtian Road and enter the wider world outside. In addition, the old man in red robe also added. Yi Yun nodded solemnly. He also did not expect that within the surrounding barrier, there would be an ancient road with a long history. Yi Yun had never heard of it 100,000 years ago. It seems that this ancient road has existed for a very long time and has never been discovered, but because the strong wind area of this barrier is so large, it is impossible for anyone to find this ancient road at once. Yi Yun only explored it once. He only focused on vertical exploration, not horizontal exploration. So naturally he would not discover this so-called ancient road to the sky. According to what the two fellow Taoists said, it was the Ice Phoenix sect leader who walked out first. "I wonder what this sect leader's name is," Yi Yun asked with a smile again. The Ice Phoenix Sect and the Shenlong Sect were neck and neck, and both belonged to the eternal level sections. The feud between the two sects continues. Of course, it was all because Yi Yun molested the saint of the Ice Phoenix Sect first, which triggered several battles between the two sections. At that time, Yi Yun was the #1 bully in Cangnan Continent, but he had many close friends around him. Otherwise, according to the wishes of the original leader of the Frozen Sect, she would have wanted to bring Yi Yun and the saint of the Ice Phoenix Sect together, but the matter ended in nothing. This leader of the Ice Phoenix Sect, no one knows her name now. Maybe only the current leader of the Ice Phoenix Sect knows her name, right? The old man in blue robe shook his head and said. So that's it. Yi Yun felt a little disappointed in his heart. He wanted to know if the person he knew had successfully passed through the Tongtian Ancient Road and entered another world. It seems that if there is a chance in the future, he will go to the Ice Phoenix Sect for verification. So how many people have passed this ancient road to heaven in the past tens of thousands of years? Yi Yun then asked. This ancient road to the sky is extremely dangerous. A total of 3 people passed this ancient road to the sky. The blue-robed old man sighed softly. Yes, it is said that in the past tens of thousands of years, countless powerful people in the eternal realm have tried to forcefully pass through this ancient road to the sky, but they all fell on the ancient road and never came back. The old man in red robe sighed sadly. The old man in blue robe looked at Yi Yun and said with a wry smile, "Fellow Taoist, the 2 of us overestimated our capabilities and tried, but we only walked for a few days before we had to return." Hearing this, Yi Yun nodded silently. Although there is an ancient road leading to the sky, not everyone can pass it. In 100,000 years, a total of 3 people will pass through, which is a frighteningly low probability. However, he is now at the true God realm and is about to enter the Divine Lord realm. There is no difficulty for Yi Yun through this ancient road. Thank you both for being honest. Yi Yun clasped his hands into fists, showed a smile, then turned around and stepped into the Gangfeng area. This person's cultivation is unfathomable. I don't know if he can pass. The old man in blue robe looked at the white figure disappearing in the wind and said with a slight frown. Stop thinking about other people's affairs. That the old man in red robe waved his sleeves and said with a wry smile, we are seriously injured, so we should quickly find a place to heal. The old man in blue robe nodded. The 2 people disappeared in an instant. Yi Yun walked in the violent wind, his body exuding a faint white light, making him look like a god descending from the earth. The raging strong wind blowing on the body was as insignificant as a breeze, not even the level of scratching an itch. Occasionally, bolts of lightning fell, and exploded completely 3 feet away from Yi Yun's head. There is nothing here that can attack and hurt Yi Yun. Yi Yun spread out his spiritual consciousness and searched for the ancient road to the sky. Although this strong wind has a huge suppressive effect on his spiritual consciousness, Yi Yun's spiritual consciousness is extremely powerful and can extend 100,000 miles away. Yi Yun quickly found the ancient road leading to the sky. He tore the void with both hands, but was surprised to find that the void in this place was extremely stable and difficult to tear. Interesting. Yi Yun smiled and didn't take it seriously. Instead of continuing to tear the void apart, he controlled his body and quickly flew towards the ancient road to the sky. The effort of a few breaths, Yi Yun arrived in front of Tongtian Ancient Road. This ancient road leading to the sky exudes a pale yellow light, floating in the void, exuding an indescribable atmosphere of ancient vicissitudes. Countless strong winds blow onto this ancient road to the sky, but it is difficult to destroy this ancient road to the sky. What a great gesture! But when Yi Yun saw this ancient road leading to the sky, he couldn't help being slightly shocked and nodded. This ancient road leading to the sky is actually the condensed form of a god-level formation. That's why we can withstand the raging winds of this endless force. After stopping silently in front of the ancient road to the sky for a while, Yi Yun turned around and left. He is in no hurry to go to that world now. For Yi Yun, he does not lack the resources to practice. Nor does he lack the techniques to practice. So no matter which world he is in, it makes no difference to him. And the Shenlong Sect still had 3 little ones, and he had to continue to support them. Yi Yun stretched one hand into the void, and a layer of red dragon energy burned on the surface of his body, like a flame. At this moment, Yi Yun activated the power of the ancestral dragon's body, preparing to forcibly tear apart the void in this barrier. Hiss. Although the void in this area was extremely strong, Yi Yun still managed to tear a hole open. Yi Yun smiled lightly. He stepped into the void passage and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Chapter 94, Lei Mountain Range, Meeting the Disciples of Shenheng Sect for the First Time. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Senior sister, the thunder energy in this Lei Mountain Range is so strong. 2 figures flew quickly from a distance and landed in the sky outside the Lei Mountains. It was Luo Li and Jun Maxiao. Yes, our ancestors asked us to come over for training. We don't know where Lei Ze is hiding. Even the disciples of the 3 major sects don't know where they are. Luo Li looked at the Lei Mountains in the distance and saw layers of black clouds covering the tops of the endless mountains in the distance, with thunder and lightning constantly rolling down. The lightning strips were extremely dense and seemed to have no intention of stopping. The deeper you go into the Lei Mountains, the denser the thunder and lightning becomes. Senior sister, let's go in and take a look first. Lord Grimm took the lead and pulsed towards Lei Mountain. Luo Li followed closely behind. Entering the Lei Mountains, the two people discovered that tiny lightnings were scattered in the air and fell on them, which actually had a body-tempering effect. This surprised the two of them. This effect is already seen just outside the Lei Mountain Range. If it were inside, wouldn't the effect of body tempering be even better? Not long after the two people entered, they saw many monks. Luo Li glanced around and found no disciples from the three major sections. These should be disciples from other forces of the Kamikaze dynasty who came to Jilei Mountains for training. There are those in the Yuanhai realm, and there are also those in the Shading realm and Xinxiao realm. The appearance of Luo Li and Lord Grimm still attracted the attention of some practitioners. Seeing this pair of rich and handsome young men flying rapidly from the sky, many people showed shocked expressions. The cultivation level of this pair of young men has reached the third level of Xinxiao realm. With such cultivation at such a young age, he is definitely considered the top genius of the Kamikaze dynasty. For a while, everyone speculated about the origins of these two people. If there are any survivors among the monks on the Sword King Stone side, someone will naturally recognize Jun Maxiao and Luo Li. But all the monks in that place were turned into smoke by the ancestor in one breath, and no one ran out. So far, all the monks who have seen Luo Li and Jun Maxiao are no longer in this world. The two of them didn't stop and headed straight into the depths of the Jilei Mountains. Their goals are very clear. One is to find Lei Ze, and the other is to compete with the talented disciples of the three major sections. Especially the disciples of the Shenheng Sect must not stay and will be killed if they see them, because their ancestors had already told them that the Shenheng Sect was the mastermind behind the old sword master of the Guyu dynasty. Thinking of the tragedies suffered by generations of Shenlong Sect disciples over the years, the two of them were filled with overwhelming hatred. This time when they come out for training, they will never let go of any Shenheng Sect disciple. Junior brother, look, what is that? Luo Li, who was flying in the air, suddenly saw a small green tree growing on a cliff, with 7 or 8 green fruits on its branches. Each fruit is as big as a fist and emits tiny lightning lights. Senior sister, I don't know either. Lord Grimm scratched his head. Although his cultivation level is very high now, his knowledge has not improved yet. I don't know either. It seems we have to read more books in the future. Luo Li also said with an embarrassed look. The three senior brothers and sisters have been running around here and there all year round, always on the road of escape, and they don't know much about various natural and earthly treasures. Therefore, Luo Li decided in her heart that she could no longer just practice cultivation, but also read more books to enhance her knowledge. Otherwise, even if a spiritual grass or spiritual fruit is placed in front of her eyes, she will not be able to identify it. The two people quickly fell down and landed next to the small tree. Lord Grimm stretched out his hand and grabbed a green fruit. He put it to his nose and smelled it. He felt the fragrance was fragrant. It seemed that it was not an ordinary product. Senior sister, this should be edible, right? Jun Maxiao asked, holding the green fruit in his hand. It should be possible. Luo Li stammered, but when she saw Lord Grimm preparing to stuff the fruit into her mouth, she immediately grabbed Lord Grimm's arm. Junior brother, don't eat these fruits yet. What if they are poisonous? Why not put them away first? Luo Li said solemnly. Okay then, senior sister. Lord Grimm nodded helplessly and was about to put the fruit away when he suddenly heard a loud roar coming from high in the distance. You two guys, get out of here. We've seen this thunderberry tree a long time ago. 2 figures fell from the sky. They were 2 young men in their early 20s. The auras on their bodies are extremely powerful. One is at the 5th level of the Divine Bridge realm, and the other is at the 6th level of the Divine Bridge realm. The 2 men were wearing cyan robes, with a unique symbol of a cyan sun on their chests. Seeing this sign, Luo Li and Lord Grimm's eyes immediately turned red. The 2 people who came turned out to be disciples of the Shenheng Sect. As the saying goes, enemies are extremely jealous when they meet. Luo Li and Jun Maxiao drew their swords in unison and rushed towards the 2 people who came. Without saying a word, he launched a fierce attack. Wow! The sword light fell like a tide, and each sword light contained the shadow of the dragon, full of powerful power. In an instant, countless sword lights were like drifting heavy rain, covering the 2 Shenheng Sect disciples. Why do you 2 lunatics fight each other when they meet? The 2 disciples of Shenheng Sect never imagined that the young man and woman in front of them would be so fierce. Without saying a word, they would just draw their swords and kill each other. The swordsmanship of these 2 people is extremely sharp. They are carrying the shadow of a divine dragon, and every attack is terrifyingly powerful. Even though the cultivation level of the two of them was higher than that of the young man and woman, they were still suppressed and beaten, almost powerless to fight back. The two people retreated in midair, and after a few moves, they started to see color. "You two guys, do you know who we are?" A young man blocked with all his strength and roared angrily. "We are from the Shenheng Sect." Another young man slashed out his sword and announced his identity. In the entire Kamikaze dynasty, the Shenheng Sect, as a major sect, was also a superpower. Except for the disciples of the other two major sects, almost no one dared to mess with it. When these two young men saw that the robes worn by Luo Li and Jun Maxiao were not from the Qitian Sword Sect or the Demon Control Sect, nor did they have other special signs, they wanted to scare them off by revealing their identities, but their calculation was wrong. What Luo Li and Jun Maxiao killed were the disciples of the Shenheng Sect. I'm going to kill your Shenheng Sect." Lord Grimm laughed loudly, and his expression became even more crazy. Laugh. He struck with a huge sword light as thick as a bucket. A young man couldn't avoid it and his arm was chopped off. The young man screamed loudly. Lord Grimm didn't give him a chance. Seeing that the young man had no sword in his hand, he rushed over and attacked wildly. In a few breaths, he killed the young man with his sword. In addition, when the young man saw that Lord Grimm was so fierce and not at all like an ordinary monk on the third level of the Divine Bridge realm, he was so frightened that he turned around and ran away. Aha! Lord Grimm used the 9 transformations of the Divine Dragon and immediately blocked his path. Luo Li immediately added a sword from behind. This sword hit the young man's shoulder. He screamed and flew sideways. Chapter 95 Lei Chi, Lei Ze. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Laugh. An astonishing sword light containing the shadow of a golden dragon descended from the sky, fell on the young man, and split him into 2 pieces. Blood dripped from the air. The young man didn't even let out a scream, and was killed by Lord Grimm with a sword. After killing the 2 Shenheng Sect disciples, Luo Li and Jun Maxiao looked at each other. Their expressions were excited and their bodies were trembling slightly. This was the first great victory for the revenge god Heng Sect, who had just entered the Lei Mountains. The corners of Jun Maxiao's eyes were wet, and he said excitedly, "Senior sister, every time I kill a disciple of the Shenheng Sect, I feel like I have avenged the dead master a little more." Luo Li nodded heavily, tears appearing in the corners of her eyes. The masters of the 3 of them were killed step by step by the Shenheng Sect, who was the mastermind behind it. Decades ago, the master and some of his fellow disciples were killed by the Shenheng Sect one after another. It can be said that the hatred between their Shenlong Sect and Shenheng Sect has become too strong to be resolved. The 2 of them returned to the small green tree, and then Lord Grimm picked the fruits from the tree and put them into the storage ring. The 2 men continued on the road again. Along the way, they were looking for the disciples of the Shenheng Sect and all kinds of heavenly materials and earthly treasures. However, the flight lasted half an hour. The 2 of them did not see the disciples of Shenheng Sect appear, not even the disciples of Qitian Sword Sect and Yuma Sect. Lord Grimm just happened to see a few monks in front of them, seemingly looking for something on the ground. He quickly flew over, fell from the sky, and landed in front of a few of them. "Fellow Taoists, have you seen any disciples from the 3 major sects?" Lord Grimm asked with his hands folded in his fists. The group of monks glanced at Lord Grimm and found that this guy was only at the 3rd level of the Divine Bridge realm. They all couldn't help but laugh. "Why are you, a casual cultivator without any sect, looking for disciples from the 3 major sects? Don't you know that they have gone deep into the Lei Mountains to pursue the Lei Ze?" A middle-aged monk at the 5th level of the Divine Bridge realm said with a sneer. Haha. Another red-faced monk also laughed and said, "You are overestimating your abilities. You kids' cultivation level is too low. In the depths of the Lei Mountain Range in front of you, thunder and lightning are everywhere, and thunder-type monsters are also emerging in endlessly. You should go back quickly." Ha ha ha. After the 2 people finished singing in harmony, the others burst into laughter. Lord Grimm's face suddenly turned red. "I didn't expect these people to be so ungrateful." Luo Li flew over from a distance and landed next to Lord Grimm. "Oh, this little girl is very pretty. Why don't you become a Taoist companion for me?" The red-faced monk laughed. his face full of obscenity. Luo Li's face turned livid with anger. She never expected that the quality of these monks would be so morally corrupt. "If you dare to insult my senior sister, you will all die." Lord Grimm's eyes were filled with scarlet red. Like a wild beast, he swung his sword directly and attacked the opponent. "What a good boy, you dare to take action. Kill him." When the red-faced monk saw Lord Grimm coming menacingly, he didn't dare to be careless. He roared angrily and drew his sword to face him. Others also drew their swords and joined the battle. "You trash!" Luo Li shouted loudly and attacked the monks. The sword light surged and the divine dragon roared. With their powerful fighting power and unparalleled swordsmanship, the two men injured several of the other party's people with just one move. 2 or 3 moves passed, almost all of these people fell to the ground. "That's it. Still so arrogant." There was contempt in Lord Grimm's eyes. Although these people's cultivation seems to be high, there is a huge gap compared to the 2 disciples of Shenheng Sect just now. He and his senior sister knocked down these people with overwhelming force. "You 2 young heroes, please spare your lives." The monks fell in a pool of blood. When they saw Lord Grimm walking over with a murderous look on his face and holding a sword, they were so frightened that they begged for mercy. How could Lord Grimm spare them? Everyone had a sword on their body and put away their storage rings. "Sister, let's go," Lord Grimm said with a smile after giving half of the storage ring to Luo Li. Luo Li nodded. The 2 people continued on their way, flying towards the depths of the Lei Mountains. At the same time, standing in the very high void of the Lei Mountains, the big black horse saw all this with a smile on his face. These 2 young masters are very powerful in battle. If the disciples of the 3 major sects were to attack each other due to disagreement, they would not be their match at all. It sent out 2 tiny rays of spiritual consciousness, and after landing on Jun Ma Xiao and Luo Li, it flew towards the depths of the Lei Mountain Range in a swagger. That place was full of thunder and lightning, which it liked, and it also saw 3 little guys hiding there practicing. And the big dark horse just wanted to go over and have a chat with these guys. After all, it itself can be regarded as a great demon of the thunder system, and it has finally met a few juniors. It naturally loves to be lively, so it cannot be missed. For the dark horse of the eternal realm, its speed is simply unbelievable. Taking 1 step forward, the next step was to reach the deepest part of the Lei Mountains. There were dark clouds above the head here, and thunder and lightning as thick as buckets kept falling down, falling on the mountains, and being absorbed by the mountains. And more thunder and lightning fell in a valley. In that valley, a huge thunder pool was formed because it absorbed a large amount of lightning. This thunder pool exudes an aura of unimaginable terror, and even great monks in the Destiny realm would not dare to set foot here easily. This place is so comfortable. You can go in and take a bath. The big black horse is now a middle-aged man in black robes, standing in mid-air, with his arms folded across his chest, looking at the thunder pool flashing with thunder below, his eyes shining brightly. He took off his clothes and fell from the air naked. Plop. It fell into the thunder pond and caused a large splash of water in the thunder pond. It's so comfortable. The big black horse was constantly inside, turning over and swimming in various ways, having a great time, and at the same time, tens of thousands of miles away from the thunder pond, a big blue bird was flying with difficulty. The closer it is to the thunder pool, the stronger the powerful pressure becomes. Even if it is a thunder-type monster, it is really difficult to get close to the thunder pool in this place. I don't know if I can get close to the thunder pool. After all, there are 3 seniors guarding that place. Lei Ze thought in his mind, although it is also a thunder-type monster, the thunder pool has always been occupied by the 3 seniors. A small monster like it only has a chance to approach the thunder pool once every 100 years. This is also the rule set by the 3 saints of Lei Mountain. Luo's, I saw it, it's right in front. Hundreds of miles away, someone shouted excitedly. Immediately, dozens of figures quickly chased in Lei Ze's direction. These damn humans. Lei Ze cursed angrily and turned around. It plunged into the dense forest and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Chapter 96 The 3 Saints of Lei Mountain. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Wow! The big black horse looked like a middle-aged man, hesitating wantonly in the thunder pool. splashing a series of water splashes. The three huge figures who were practicing in a palace at the bottom of the thunder pool suddenly opened their eyes at this moment. "Brother, someone actually entered the thunder pool," a dark figure stood up angrily. "Looks like a human being. Which human in the Kamikaze dynasty dares to come to the thunder pool exclusive to the three saints of Lei Mountain?" Another figure also stood up, furious. "Second brother, let's go meet this human for a while." The three black figures immediately disappeared from the palace. Next moment, they appeared above the thunder pool, looking at the naked middle-aged man swimming in the thunder pond. The eyes of the three saints of Lei Mountain showed anger. "Where did this savage come from? Dare you come to cause trouble in my Lei Pond at Lei Mountain?" The three saints of Lei Mountain roared, and the sound rumbled around. In an instant, thunder and lightning were raging between the sky and the earth, and they fell with a rumble. Are you talking to me, Uncle Ma?" The big black horse stretched out his hand and put on those clothes on his body. Then he smiled, showing his big white teeth, and looked at the three huge figures opposite. Although the three big demons revealed their true bodies, they did not become gigantic. In the middle is a blue dragon. Its body is surrounded by thunder and exudes the aura of the first level of Destiny realm. On the left is a green cow with not a single hair on its body. Its tendons are shiny, and lightning flashes from time to time. The cultivation level of this green bull is not low, reaching the peak of the 10th level of Nirvana. On the far right is a green tiger with 2 wings on its back, and lightning shoots out of those wings from time to time. Its cultivation is also at the 10th level of Nirvana. The big black horse felt quite happy when he saw fellow monsters, and kept smiling. Then, he slowly walked along the void. With every step he took, the aura on his body changed from weak to strong. After just a few steps, the aura on his body had already surpassed the realm of destiny. "Is this a senior in the realm of life and death?" The three saints of Lei Mountain looked at the middle-aged man in front of them, and they were all so frightened that they trembled all over. This turned out to be a senior in the realm of life and death. This cultivation level is too strong. In front of this senior, they felt as small as ants. "Don't move, stand in line, let Uncle Ma see you." The big black horse walked closer with his hands behind his back. The momentum on his body was like dozens of mountains pressing down on the three saints of Lei Mountain opposite, making them unable to move. "Well, your little dragon is a thunder dragon, and its cultivation is not bad, but its bloodline is too mixed." The big black horse pointed at Shenlong and said. He looked at the green bull on the left again. He actually walked forward, patted the strong muscles of the green bull with his hand, and said with a smile, "Uncle Ma, I haven't eaten the meat of Kuei cattle for a long time. How about you contribute a few kilograms?" But when Chingsa Kuei Nyo heard this, he was so frightened that he almost fainted. "Senior, don't make such a joke." Kuei Nyo said dumbfounded. "And you?" The big black horse instantly teleported in front of Ching Hu and said with a smile. "The meat from your Pluto Thunder Tiger is not bad. Uncle Ma, I haven't eaten tiger meat for a long time. Why don't you cut off a few kilograms and give it to Uncle Ma to drink with me?" "Senior, if you want to eat tiger meat, I can find you something else, but please don't do anything to me." Pluto Thunder Tiger also said in a trembling voice, in front of this powerful person in the life and death realm, "How dare they, the three saints of Lei Mountain, say no?" Seeing that these three monsters were scared to death, the big black horse laughed loudly, and the monster energy was released from his body. He hid it very well before, so these three guys didn't recognize it at all. It was also a big demon. After he released this demonic energy, the three saints of Lei Mountain all widened their eyes and stared at the middle-aged black-robed man in front of them in disbelief. This turned out to be a great demon senior in the realm of life and death. "Hey, do you understand now? We are all a family, how could I bully you juniors?" The big black horse raised his head proudly and laughed. The reason why he released the breath of life and death realm cultivation was because he was afraid that if he released the breath of eternal realm, these three guys would be frightened to death. After all, there are very few powerful people in the eternal realm in the entire Cangnan Continent. All of them are famous people. After he finished laughing, he took back his breath, and the three saints of Lei Mountain suddenly relaxed. "So you are a senior of the demon clan." The three saints of Lei Mountain transformed into three human beings. They came over and greeted the big black horse with smiles on their faces. Big dragon, 2 oxen, and 3 tigers. I passed by here and saw that the water in this thunder pool is good. I came here to take a bath. I also wanted to see you juniors. The big black horse said carelessly. He was suddenly given a nickname by this senior, and the 3 saints felt bitter in their hearts, but there is no way, among the demon clan, the strong are respected, the great demon senior in the life and death realm in front of them is far beyond what they can match. Just give him a nickname, it doesn't matter, he won't die anyway. Senior, you came all the way, don't leave in a hurry, we have to entertain you. Dalong came over, clasped his hands and said with a smile, this is a senior of the demon clan in the realm of life and death, and they happen to have a lot of questions in practice that they want to ask for advice on. Normally, this kind of opportunity cannot be found even with a lantern. Now this senior in the realm of life and death has taken the initiative to come to Lei Mountain. This is really a blessing accumulated by the 3 saints in their previous lives. The big dark horse nodded, he smiled and patted Dalong on the shoulder, and said with a smile, you can teach me. Just finished talking here. The big black horse raised his eyebrows slightly, as if he saw something. Dalong immediately came over and asked, Senior, did something happen in our Lei Mountain? There's a razor running over. The big black horse smiled casually. It turns out to be that little Lei Ze. It is acquainted with a few of us, but it seems to be chased by the monks from the 3 major sections. Since the senior has spoken, let's let it enter this place. Dalong touched his nose and said. When did I tell you to let it in? The big black horse's eyes widened and he once again exuded a powerful aura. The 3 great demons all felt their shoulders sinking at this moment, as if another mountain was pressing down on them. Dalong said with a sad face, Senior, what do you mean? Just don't let it enter this thunder pond. If Lei Ze's little kid is hurt, just get hurt, and let it keep running around Lei Mountain. The big black horse thought for a while and said with a smile, if this Lei Ze ran into the Lei Pond and his injuries were repaired, how would his 2 little masters continue their training? Lei Ze must be allowed to hang around the mountains with the talented disciples from the 3 major sects all the time, so that the 2 little masters can have better experience. Seeing that Lei Ze's aura was a little unstable, the big black horse grabbed a handful of thunder pond water and threw it violently. This handful of thunder pool water disappeared from the eyes in an instant, as if teleporting. Chapter 97 Breakthrough to the Divine King Realm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The thunder pool is coming soon. Lei Ze looked at the barrel-thick bolts of lightning landing on a distant mountain top, with a burning look in his eyes. It only needs to reach the thunder pool. I believe that the 3 saints of Lei Mountain will never ignore death. After all, they both belong to the demon clan. Moreover, we have had a close relationship before. It looked back at the monks from the 3 major sects behind it, who were still chasing after it. The place it is located is still hundreds of miles away from the thunder pool. The sky is now covered with dark clouds, and the density of thunder and lightning is extremely strong. If you are flying, you can easily be hit by lightning. As a thunder monster, Lei Ze is not afraid of thunder and lightning, but he cannot be attacked by thunder and lightning in a large area, otherwise it will not be able to bear it. Puff. Before Lei Ze could react, a ball of water suddenly hit him, crushing him to the core. Who the hell is plotting against me? Lei Ze was so angry that he cursed, but the next moment, it was surprised to find that its mouth opened uncontrollably, and then the cyan thunder water spilled all over the ground, flowing into its mouth like a stream. Then, its mouth passively closed again. Then, Lei Ze couldn't open his mouth at all. It's over. The 3 saints brought me thunder water, but I was so rude. This is the punishment given to me by the 3 saints. Lei Ze wanted to cry but had no tears. At this moment, it flapped its mouth with its wings. After the large ball of thunder pond water that was swallowed entered its body, it immediately emitted powerful vitality, allowing its injuries to improve quickly. Lei Ze suddenly felt happy. The 3 saints still remember it as a junior. With the water of the thunder pond, even if it does not enter the thunder pond, it can still deal with the disciples of the 3 major sects for a while. Think of this. Lei Ze, who kept his mouth shut, turned around, avoided the lightning in the sky, and flew into a dense forest. At this time, the big dark horse had already appeared in Lei Palace, in order to entertain this demon clan senior in the realm of life and death. The three saints of Lei took out all the good things they had collected over the years, all kinds of rare natural treasures, fine wines and delicacies are all placed on the table. The big black horse ate happily. Although he despised these things, he had hardly eaten anything during this period of time when he was pulling a carriage for the master, so even if he eats something he didn't like before, he feels extremely happy when he eats it now. At this moment, an indescribable breath of panic suddenly came from an extremely distant place. The big black horse suddenly looked shocked. It quickly stood up and walked in the center of the hall, looking in a certain direction, with streaks of divine light in its eyes. My cultivation is still too weak to feel more distant places. The big dark horse sighed. Just now, he used his supreme magical power to detect the terrifying aura coming from far away, but his cultivation was still not enough and the detection distance was not far enough. Right now, when the big black horse used this magical power, he unintentionally displayed the aura of a great demon in the eternal realm. The three great demons in the palace were immediately stunned. "Senior, are you?" The three big monsters knelt down on the ground with a plop, kowtowing in excitement. At this moment, they were able to tell that the senior demon clan in front of them was actually a great demon in the eternal realm. This is really unimaginable. They have never thought in this life that one day they will be able to have a drink and have a good time with the great demon senior in the eternal realm. Shoo, just no. The big black horse turned his head, looked at the three little demons kneeling on the ground, and grinned. Then he turned around and continued to stare in a certain direction in the distance, and at this same moment, almost all the powerful men in the eternal realm on Cangnan Continent, at this moment, everyone felt the unspeakable horror coming from somewhere. Even the eternal realm experts who were practicing in seclusion opened their eyes at this moment and stood up suddenly. Everyone looked in a certain direction. The breath coming from that direction became more and more terrifying, and all these powerful men in the eternal realm felt that their bodies could not help but tremble automatically. That's a natural suppression. It is a power that makes them worship from the soul. Oh my God, what the hell is going on? That a strong man in the eternal realm trembled all over and said to himself. What happened inside the barrier? That another eternal realm powerhouse looked at a certain place and said with fear, and in a certain space, there were two old men standing, one blue and one red, both of whom were at the eternal realm. These two people were exactly the two old men Yi Yun had seen outside the Gangfeng barrier. This seems to be coming from the barrier. Could it be that the outside world is going to invade our world? That the old man in blue robe said worriedly. Absolutely not. That the old man in red robe shook his head and said softly, if the outside world wanted to invade us, we would have done it long ago. Why wait until now? Is that? A figure in white suddenly appeared in the mind of the old man in blue robe. Could it be that young man in white? The young man in white clothes was extremely mysterious, and even the two of them could not tell his cultivation level. The two of them once thought that this person's cultivation was concealed by some secret method. I suspect that young man is breaking through from the eternal realm to the true God realm. The old man in blue robe expressed his inner thoughts. What? You actually said that he is a strong man in the true God realm. That the old man in red robe was also shocked. For hundreds of thousands of years, there has never been a strong person in the true God realm in Cangnan Continent. It seems that this realm only remains in legend. In other words, only by reaching the outside world through the barrier can it be possible to break through from the eternal realm to the true God realm. When the two of them thought of this and recalled the young man's every move, they suddenly felt that this speculation was extremely possible. Unexpectedly, I missed that senior in the true God realm. The two people looked at each other and couldn't help but sigh. The terrifying aura in the distance was getting stronger and stronger. At this moment, these two powerful men in the eternal realm had to use their powerful cultivation to resist this powerful pressure, but the strange thing is, this powerful terrifying aura can only be felt by those who are strong in the eternal realm. However, any monk under the eternal realm is still calm and does not feel anything strange. Boom. At this moment, all the powerful people in the eternal realm suddenly discovered that the entire Cangnan continent seemed to be shaking, and then a more powerful terrifying aura swept over. All the powerful people in the eternal realm could no longer stand still and sat on the ground. This is someone who has broken through to the true God realm. An eternal realm ancestor with a profound sect, suddenly thought of a certain possibility and suddenly exclaimed. Someone has broken through to the true God realm. More and more eternal realm monks are aware of this. On the Cangnan Continent, a strong man of the true God realm unexpectedly appeared. This simply breaks the hundreds of thousands of years of practice in the practice world. And in the distant Kamikaze dynasty, deep underground in the Lei Mountains, inside the Lei Palace, the big black horse with an excited expression knelt on the ground and murmured to himself, "Congratulations, sir, for breaking through to the realm of the Divine Lord." Chapter 98 Yi Yun returns and the thunder pool tempers his body. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Master. This senior is already a great demon in the eternal realm, there is actually a master above. And what kind of divine king realm is this master? What realm is this? The three saints of Lei Mountain looked at each other, their eyes widened, and they could not hide the turmoil in their hearts. They had never heard of the Divine Lord realm, but when the three of them thought that this senior was in the eternal realm, wouldn't its owner be at least the true God realm? The three of them became more and more frightened as they thought about it. They quickly stood up, ran behind the big black horse, and knelt on the ground. These three great demons didn't even dare to breathe. At this moment, the entire hall was audibly quiet. Suddenly there was a fluctuation in the space, and a young man in white walked out. The big black horse, who was lowering his head and muttering to himself, suddenly looked up, his face full of shock. The master broke through to the Divine Lord realm, and it only took so long for him to return so quickly. This Divine King realm is really terrifying. Xiao Ma, you have a very happy life here. Yi Yun put his hands behind his back and smiled calmly. Master, Xiao Ma realizes his mistake. The big black horse rolled on the spot and immediately turned into a big black horse. The three saints behind were stunned by this scene. Is this young man in white clothes who is like a direct immortal the master of this senior eternal realm horse? Could he be a strong man of the true God? The three people secretly released a spiritual consciousness to sense it, but found that they could not detect any cultivation level of the person in front of them. Yi Yun raised his eyelids, and an invisible force suddenly entered the minds of these three people. The three people's eyes were in a daze, as if something was missing in their minds. At this moment, Yi Yun directly erased some of their memories. He didn't want these three little guys to know about his breakthrough to the Divine Lord realm. Yi Yun patted the big black horse's smooth back and said with a smile, "Now that you're here, you can relax here. You're tired from pulling the car during this period. It just so happens that we're here to rest for a while. Master, The big black horse knelt down with both hooves and was so moved that he almost cried. Yi Yun smiled faintly, stretched out his hand to grab it, and the void rippled. The black carriage thousands of miles away was caught by him in the main hall. Who dares to steal my master's carriage? The young man in black robe, transformed into a big black cat, stood on the carriage with a wary look on his face, staring at the surroundings fiercely. When it saw an old man dressed in white standing on the main hall, and Uncle Ma standing next to it, the big black cat suddenly transformed into a little black cat. It jumped over nimbly. Master, I didn't expect you to come back so soon. I thought someone had stolen the carriage. The big black cat didn't dare to hug Yi Yun's thigh, but just knelt on the ground and kept kowtowing. Its voice was sad, as if it was about to cry with excitement. Yi Yun smiled. This big black cat is also a showman. He did not speak, but released a burst of magic power to lift the big black cat up. Pony, kitten, in this place, you can transform into human form, and you can also interact with these demon fellow practitioners. Yi Yun smiled, and suddenly his body disappeared. I listened to the master. The big black horse and the big black cat were both elated and beaming with joy. The two people suddenly transformed into a middle-aged man in black robe and a young man in black robe. The big black cat ran to the side of the big black horse, pointed at the three guys next to him, and asked, with a smile, Uncle Ma, are these the three monsters in Lei Mountain? Yes. The big black horse patted the big black cat on the shoulder, laughed and said, you are all about the same cultivation level, so we can communicate with each other. As he said that, the big black horse waved his hand. The three saints of Lei Mountain hurriedly ran over. The three of them clasped their hands and said with a smile, Your Excellency, you are a nine-tailed civet, right? I've heard of its name for a long time. You are welcome. The big black cat chuckled, looked at the three people, and immediately saw their heels, and then clasped his hands in a gesture of respect. These three people were slightly weaker than him in terms of bloodline, but their cultivation levels were similar to his, especially that thunder dragon, who is already at the first level of Destiny Realm. This made the big black cat feel hot. I wish I could break through from the 10th level of the Nirvana Realm to the Destiny Realm at this moment. Over the Thunder Pond, Yi Yun appeared. His eyes briefly glanced at Lei Chi, and a faint smile appeared on his face. The water in this pool of thunder is not of high quality, but just right. It would be extremely good to temper the bodies of the three disciples of the Shenlong Sect, especially after absorbing the essence and blood of the ancestral dragon. Quenching the body with the water of the thunder pool will greatly increase the speed of absorption. As soon as Yi Yun thought, a ray of light fell in front of him. The light dissipated and Su Wani, who was practicing, appeared. She felt the change in time and space, and immediately opened her eyes from the state of cultivation, and saw herself sitting cross-legged above a green thunder pond. I've met my ancestors. Su Wani stood up quickly and saluted Yi Yun. Boom. As soon as he finished saying this, lightning bolts as thick as buckets fell from the dense clouds. Yi Yun took a look at the lightning. These lightning bolts as thick as buckets fell in other places very cleverly, bypassing Su Wani and Yi Yun. This. Su Wani looked up and saw those dense lightnings falling from the sky, as thick as buckets, and couldn't help being frightened. The water in the thunder pool here is suitable for tempering the body, and it can also help you quickly refine the blood of the ancestral dragon. In the next few days, you will refine it here. Yi Yun said quietly. He stretched out his hand and pointed, and a white circle of light about 7 to 8 feet suddenly appeared above the thunder pool. This aperture exudes an indescribable sacred aura, completely isolating part of the thunder pool. Those lightning bolts in the sky obediently took a detour when encountering a circle of light. Okay, ancestor. Su Wani agreed. However, when she was about to jump into the water of the thunder pond to practice, she still felt the frightening aura emanating from the thunder pond. After all, she is only at the 3rd level of the divine realm. Don't worry, I have already set up a formation in this area. The power of the thunder pond water has dropped a lot, which just matches your current cultivation level. Yi Yun said with a smile. That's great. Amelia Su cheered. The body swayed and fell into the water of the thunder pond in the next second. The power of countless thunder and lightning poured into the body, causing a crisp, numb and itchy feeling in the body, but it did not cause any harm. Su Wani relaxed her mood, closed her eyes, and began to continue refining the ancestral dragon essence and blood that had not been completed in her body. Take this drop too. Yi Yun flicked his finger, and a drop of ancestral dragon blood fell on Su Wani's mouth. She quickly opened her mouth and swallowed this drop of ancestral dragon essence and blood. The ancestral dragon's essence and blood turned into unimaginable surging vitality, and immediately began to flow in her body like a mighty river. The surging thunder and lightning energy merged with the energy of the ancestral dragon's essence and blood, washing together Su Wani's body. Let her refining speed suddenly increase. So fast. Su Wani was shocked. This refining speed has reached more than 3 times. Seeing that Su Wani was following the steps and everything was normal, Yi Yun nodded. In fact, he also has a thunder pool in his warehouse. There is more than one. There are at least tens of thousands of them. However, even the lowest quality thunder pools cannot be used if they are not in the eternal realm. Chapter 99 Thundercloud Spirit Fruit, Grab It. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 100,000-year sign. The reward Yi Yun received was extraordinary, not only transcending this world, but also transcending all heavens and realms. Not only emperor level, god level, super god level, there are also supreme level, Tao ancestor level, immortal level, era level. There are some items that he cannot take out now. Once he takes them out, I am afraid that this world will not be able to bear them. So for Yi Yun, he lacked nothing. Yi Yun's eyes moved, and he penetrated through the layers of earth veins and fell into Jilei Palace. At this moment, the big black cat and the big black horse have turned into human forms and become the guests of the 3 saints of Jilei Mountain. They are eating, drinking and having a great time there. Yi Yun smiled lightly. He ignored these 2 guys. After all, they are just 2 monster beasts, and they usually work very hard. During this time, they should just relax. Yi Yun looked into the distance again and saw Luo Li and Jun Maxiao. The corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. These two little guys are still walking through the Lei Mountains, looking for the disciples of the three major sections. Occasionally they encounter a treasure of heaven and earth, and they will quickly dig it out and put it away. Seeing that everything was going on in an orderly manner, Yi Yun was quite satisfied and was ready to practice. After all, he had just broken through to the Divine Lord realm, and he needed to stabilize his cultivation. With a flash of his body, Yi Yun hit in a void above the thunder pool. Boom! In the rolling dark clouds, thick bolts of lightning fell down, but they only landed on the edge of the thunder pool. No lightning dared to fall on the thunder pool. Since Yi Yun broke through to the Divine Lord realm, his cultivation has become even more terrifying. He tore through the void and returned to the Kamikaze dynasty from the barrier hundreds of millions of miles away, and it only took him a few breaths to get there. This was far beyond his previous time. After entering the Divine Lord realm, Yi Yun's understanding of the world naturally became deeper. Deep in Lei Mountain, two figures were flying at ultra-low altitude in the dense forest. Thick clouds rolled in and thunder and lightning struck. Boom! Thick lightning bolts continued to fall from the sky. The two figures moved quickly and slowly, constantly avoiding the lightning. "Senior sister, there is too much lightning here," Lord Grimm shouted loudly. "Yeah, we have to be more careful," Luo Li also said in a deep voice. "They have now gone deep into Lei Mountain, and there are more and more lightning in these places. You can't fly at high altitude now, otherwise you will attract more lightning. It can only fly close to the ground in this way." The two of them flew for a stick of incense, but found nothing. Not only did he not see any monks, he didn't even find any genius treasures. This made Lord Grimm a little discouraged. "Sister, I don't know where the disciples from the three major sects have gone." Lord Grimm angrily slapped his palm on a big black tree next to him. The strange thing is that despite his physical strength, he didn't break the big tree. This tree is so strong, that there was a look of shock on Lord Grimm's face. Experiencing a lot of thunder and lightning every day, the trees here are naturally different from the ordinary trees outside. Luo Li covered her mouth and smiled. "Senior sister, are these trees all treasures? Why don't we chop some more and put them in the storage ring?" Lord Grimm had an idea. "Good." Luo Li's eyes suddenly lit up. The two of them have a special love for searching for all kinds of natural and earthly treasures. Especially when I realize that these trees may be treasures, I immediately prepare to buy these trees. Laugh. Lord Grimm pulled out the Hunyuan Wuji sword and chopped down a big tree. This big tree is so thick that it requires 3 or 4 people to hug it. His sword was extremely powerful, but when it hit the big tree, it didn't cut it, and a thin gash appeared in the tree. Bah! A bolt of blue lightning spurted out from the small opening, directly following the Hunyuan Wuji sword and transmitted to Lord Grimm. Lord Grimm suddenly shivered and almost fell down. "Sister, there is lightning in this tree," Lord Grimm said awkwardly. He raised his arm and found that it was numb and weak from the electric shock. Luo Li came over, looked at the small hole in the tree, pulled out the Taishan golden dragon sword, made 2 gestures at the hole, and said in wild imagination, "Junior brother, maybe there will be lightning only for the first time. Now the hole has been opened. It should be gone the second time, let me try." As he spoke, Luo Li struck the incision with a sharp sword. Stab! A thicker bolt of lightning was transmitted along the supreme golden dragon sword. The lightning was so powerful that Luo Li felt numb all over and could no longer hold the sword in her hand. "Sister, are you okay?" Lord Grimm hurried over to take a look at Luo Li. At this time, the senior sister's face was pale and her lips were trembling. It seems that he was badly shocked. "Fortunately, it's not a big deal." After Luo Li regained her composure, she took back the supreme golden dragon sword. "Junior brother, it seems that these trees in Lei Mountain have no connection with us." Luo Li's perfect little face showed a painful expression. "It's like seeing a mountain full of treasures and feeling heartbroken because you can't take them." "Why?" Lord Grimm also sighed. The resentful two calmed down and then hit the road again. After climbing over a mountain, they finally saw the figures of several monks in a dense forest ahead. "Junior brother, that's from the Chitian Sword Sect." Luo Li narrowed her eyelids slightly, looked into the distance and said in a deep voice. "The Chitian Sword Sect members are not good people either, senior sister, we can't let them go." Lord Grim drew out his sword, his face showing murderous intent. Luo Li nodded. The Qiqian sword sect has fought against them several times, but those times, the ancestor finally stepped in to solve the problem. This time the ancestor is not here, then let the 2 disciples of Shenlong Sect deal with these monks of Qiqian sword sect. The 2 flew past quickly. When I came closer, I found that these 3 or 4 disciples of the Qiqian sword sect were surrounding a small green tree, discussing how to distribute the spiritual fruits. This small tree is similar to the thundercloud fruit tree that the 2 met before, except it is more than half a meter taller. There are many fruits on the branches. Each cyan fruit was crystal clear, with a layer of lightning emitting from the surface. It was also larger than the thundercloud spirit fruits they had obtained before. Junior brothers, there are 4 of us in total. As a senior brother, I will take 3 more coins. You can stop fighting. How about that? A young man with a mole between his eyebrows was bargaining with the 3 junior brothers next to him. Stop discussing it. All the fruits on the thundercloud fruit tree belong to us. A faint voice sounded. Lord Grim and Luo Li strode out of the dense forest. The young man with the mole between his eyebrows raised his head. When he saw clearly the cultivation level of the young man and woman, a mocking look appeared on his lips. He couldn't help but sneered. What a loud tone. In the Kamikaze dynasty, even the disciples of the Demon Control Sect and the Shenheng Sect would never dare to speak like this to my disciples of the Qiqian Sword Sect. Haha. Senior brother, where did these 2 idiots come from? They have cultivated to the 3rd level of the Divine Bridge realm and dare to hit the Thundercloud spirit fruit that our Qiqian Sword Sect is interested in. The 3 young men next to him laughed loudly. In the next moment, the laughter suddenly stopped. A tidal wave of sword light covered it from 2 directions. These 4 disciples of the Qiqian Sword Sect, after only resisting a few moves, were killed by Luo Li and Lord Grim on the spot with a few screams. Chapter 100 Battle with Lei Ze. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The sword is sheathed, the golden dragon's shadow disappeared instantly, and Lord Grim stood there, looking at the 4 corpses, with a trace of sneer on his face. Among the 4 disciples of the Qiqian Sword Sect, the highest cultivation level is only at the 6th level of the Divine Bridge realm, and the lowest is at the 2nd level of the Divine Bridge realm. How could he and his senior sister be his rivals? Lord Grim took away the storage rings from these 4 people, gave 2 to his senior sister, and then the 2 of them continued on their way. The 2 of them didn't know where Lei Ze was, nor where the talented disciples from the 3 major sects were. The Lei Mountain Range was vast, and they could only try their luck by going deeper into it. Boom. One after another extremely thick lightning fell from the extremely low clouds, and the distribution of lightning strikes became more and more dense. The 2 people had to be careful to avoid these lightnings while flying at low altitude. These lightnings fell without any pattern. Sometimes a small area will be sparse, but sometimes a small area will be very dense. It was so dense that there could be hundreds of lightning bolts in an area of 10 feet in radius, and each lightning bolt is a full foot thick, and its sound is astonishing, giving people a sense of insignificance against the mighty power of God. Lord Grim and Luo Li had no choice but to use the Divine Dragon's 9 transformations technique, and marched quite awkwardly under the attacks of lightning. Senior sister, I'm afraid the disciples of the 3 major sects will also have a hard time. After the 2 people broke through a dense area, they breathed a sigh of relief temporarily. Lord Grim stood on the top of a boulder, looked around and said softly. I don't know where those guys went, and Lei Ze. Luo Li said annoyed. She jumped up and onto the boulder, looking into the distance, looking for clues. The location where they are at the moment is already deep in the Lei Mountain Range. Ordinary monks rarely come to this place. Therefore, the 2 of them watched for a long time without seeing a single figure. A bolt of lightning suddenly flew out from the dense forest and stopped in midair. Lei Ze looked at the 2 young men and women in front of him, with a hint of ruthlessness in his eyes. It turned out to be 2 young monks who were alone, both of whom were at the 3rd level of Xinxiao realm. Even if it is injured now, it will have no problem dealing with these 2 young monks. A few hundred feet away, Lei Ze's nose moved, and soon he smelled a special scent coming from the 2 young monks. These 2 young monks actually have dragon blood in their bodies. Lei Ze was shocked, then a greedy look appeared in its eyes. if these two young monks are eaten, it will play an immeasurable role in the recovery of its injuries and the growth of its cultivation. Lei Ze felt greedy in his heart at this moment. Its pair of huge wings suddenly flapped and turned into a bolt of lightning. It avoided the falling lightning and quickly flew towards the two young monks. Senior sister, did the monks from the three major sects capture the Lei Ze and take it away from here? Lord Grimm looked into the distance, thought of a certain possibility, and said with a face that didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Probably not. Junior brother, this is what our ancestors asked us to come in to practice. If the three major sects capture Lei Ze and leave, our ancestors should tell us immediately. Luo Li shook her head and said. The ancestor has left, can he still care about the affairs here? Lord Grimm smiled bitterly. Junior brother, don't forget that there is a big black horse. It is very powerful. If there is any problem, it will definitely tell us. It cannot let us wander around here like headless flies. Luo Li rolled her eyes, then smiled slyly. That big black horse is unfathomable. Now that the ancestor is gone, the big dark horse will definitely help them secretly. After all, it was the big dark horse who protected the two juniors when they were in the blood-clothed sect. While the two were talking, suddenly there was a sinister laughter behind them. Huh, you don't have to look for me anymore, I'm here, Lei Ze. Lord Grimm and Luo Li heard this voice and turned around to look back. They saw a big blue bird standing on a branch, staring down at them. This big bird is huge, with tiny lightning bolts constantly jumping on its blue feathers. Its aura is also extremely powerful, and it has reached the 10th level of the Divine Bridge realm. Luois, you are really easy for us to find. As soon as Lord Grimm saw the big blue bird Lei Ze, he was so excited that he drew his sword. The ancestor asked them to practice and didn't say anything specific, but he and his senior sister had already discussed it, and they wanted to catch this Lei Ze. At this time Luo Li also drew his sword. The pair of sisters and brothers had a clear understanding of each other and launched an attack on Lei Ze at the same time. TSK. Streams of sword energy soared into the sky, with the phantoms of divine dragons mixed in between them, exuding powerful power. You two little third-level monks of the Divine Bridge realm dare to fight against me. It's really funny. Lei Ze was so angry that he looked up to the sky and roared. It didn't expect that these two little-known monks would yell and kill them as soon as they saw it. This style of painting is wrong. Wasn't it here to hunt these two human race boys and girls? Why is it the other way around? These two young men and women don't look like they are from the three major sections. How could they be so arrogant? The more Lei Ze thought about it, the angrier he became. He opened his mouth and shot out bolts of lightning. These lightnings turned into wide thunder swords, making crackling sounds and rushing towards the bright sword light emitted by Luo Li and Lord Grimm. Boom! The dragon sword light and the thunder sword collided together, and after an earth-shattering sound, they disappeared at the same time. Lei Ze was shocked. How come these two little guys are so strong in swordsmanship? Even the talented disciples of the three major sects cannot have such strong personal combat power in this realm, right? Aha! Lei Ze fluttered his wings, hovered in the air, spit out a stream of thunder swords, and attacked crazily downwards. Although it had been seriously injured before, it had swallowed up the ball of thunder pond water. Now its injuries were mostly improved, and it had been able to continue fighting for a while. This young man and woman must be eaten. As long as it absorbs the dragon blood in their bodies, the injuries can be healed quickly, and maybe, it can even break through to the Nirvana realm. Facing Lei Ze's attack, Luo Li and Lord Grimm easily dodged. The two people used the Shenlong 9 transformation technique, which was unpredictable. Shadows filled the sky and launched a fierce attack on Lei Ze in mid-air. This formal hand-to-hand fight immediately made Lei Ze complain endlessly. He didn't expect that a pair of young men at such a young age could be so difficult to deal with, even more powerful than the talented disciples of the three major sections. After a few rounds, Lei Ze was about to run away. It knew that if it didn't escape, its old injury would relapse, and it might be left here by these two little guys. Call. Lei Ze rolled his eyes and opened his mouth again. A large ocean of thunder and lightning suddenly spurted out and rushed towards the two people crazily. Senior sister, it's not good. This Lei Ze. I'm afraid he's going to run away. Lord Grimm's eyes were very poisonous. After suddenly discovering Lei Ze's motive, he performed the 9 transformations of the divine dragon, and the phantoms of the divine dragon crossed the lightning and rushed towards Lei Ze.